I think the most important thing that I've learned is about self-validation and really treating yourself with care and kindness, and like also the acknowledgement that like the way your brain speaks to you and the voice in your head speaks to you is not necessarily a positive guidance for you. So understanding that has been one of probably my biggest things, is like unlearning all the programming that we get, and also just believing other people's crap. Like there's so much people, with all the joy that comes, you get your haters, right?
Hmm.
I feel like that's something I learned in the music business, was that I always learned that when people are hating on you, that's when you're doing things right, because the jealousy kicks in. But it's hard to, when you're such a positive person, like take when someone is not being kind or positive, right?
It's funny that you say about haters. It was hard for me to see that before as something that could be positive. And now I
Mhm.
look at it as aspects of them that need to heal, right? And I wish them well. Here we go.
Do
Uh,
it.
so, welcome to the Mental Real Estate Podcast, where we explore how to rent to own the belief in yourself and the vision for your future. Today, I'm thrilled to have a guest who embodies creativity, passion, and innovation in the world of real estate. Steve Halpern. Steve is not just a top tier real estate broker; he's a trailblazer, a leader of his team, and the number one agent at Compass, right? You're the first Compass agent ever.
I was the founding agent. Again, there's some questions. Some people have. I was the first commission agent, so there was some people that were on a salary that stayed, but I'm the first commission agent. I
uh,
was the first commission agent.
yeah, I mean, you have the receipts. So Steve has closed over 200 high-end transactions and built a reputation for building records where others fall short. His expertise has been spotlighted on HGTV, Million Dollar Rooms, Bravo's Million Dollar Listing, and even in the Wall Street Journal. Proven time and time again, he knows how to turn properties into must-have dream homes. But here's what sets Steve apart. Before real estate, he toured the world as a DJ and music producer. That creative spark fuels his ability to connect with clients and market homes in ways that are both innovative and unforgettable. So, whether you're looking to elevate your mindset or learning to stand out from the crowd, or simply just want to be inspired by someone who knows how to own their mental real estate, you're in the right place. So, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for the beautiful words. That's awesome. Thank you.
They're all
Thank you. I'm so
true.
excited to chat with you. You're one of my favorite people in the world. You and your husband, watching you guys and your family, and just really like an inspiration for us. And I was actually, this morning I was looking at reminding myself of Michael's, having your daughter in the mirror saying all the affirmations, and I'm just like, I can't wait to do that.
Oh, and what is that
So
like? Like now that you're in this chapter of being a father, what are you teaching her?
I have a $9 million pitch after this.
Oh, you're gonna get it. You're gonna do
I just need to get them to sign it. So
okay.
yeah,
What are
excited.
you telling yourself?
What do you mean in regards to like?
Being like for people who are listening who don't have the confidence yet to go into rooms like that or to already feel like they have it, what are you telling yourself or what have you told yourself?
I I just always say that I'm the best. I know that I'm the best. I know that I have a very unique skill, and like I know that when I'm aligned with a client and they get what I do and we're aligned, then I don't really believe that I'm competing with anybody else ever, right?
Mm.
I'm competing against myself. There are people that I don't match with and that we don't have the same vibe and energy, and I won't work with those people, and I'm not usually the right fit for them. So when I'm walking into a room like that, I've already met with them. So this one I know but usually, no, I'm the performer. So for me, it's like I always walk in the room with as much optimism and joy as possible, and passion, and it really does just move the whole room.
Have you always been that way?
I think most of my life,
Okay.
yeah, most of my life I've been that way.
The reason why I ask is because you do a lot of self-development, you go to Tony Robbins events, you're constantly working on yourself. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, are you doing that to remain confident or like what is your why that you do those things?
Well, I do those things to just keep. I think when I'm not doing those things, no matter how successful I am, I'm not having the joy and the happiness. I do those things to really more align with the way I want to feel
Mm.
and how I need to be as a person to feel that way. Because I've found myself over the years sometimes doing amazing jobs, really kicking butt for everybody, and then just not feeling the joy of it. So, it's much more of aligning that. And usually when I'm in that mindset, all the rest of the stuff just kind of goes into place. So
I know, but
you know,
it's nice to hear from someone else. And then, we've been friends for a while now. I think it's amazing. Shout out to Karen who introduced us. But
he was amazing on the podcast.
oh,
I took so much from, obviously we have an 18-month-old daughter. I have never been good with like budgeting and money and, all that stuff. And like, I took some of the stuff that she said there and I was like, I'm doing this. This is it.
yeah, and it's funny, like I was gonna do a little warm up with you, but we're already in it. I feel like we have such a great time having heartfelt conversations, and it's like
Yeah.
really easy with you. So
Always have.
right? And so
Yeah.
I'm going to give you your flowers while you're alive and say an amazing bio about you so that people who are watching this podcast can know that either your parents taught you or you wish that your parents would have taught you.
I don't have like an agenda necessarily in regards to like but I mean, I think there's what I'm experiencing more than teaching is, and giving that experience as well, is just the joy of a happy home and the presence of, both her mom and her dad, right? So like one of the things that in, she was born in July of 2023, and, most of my business in the last year and a half has been near our home. So I've been able to be a lot more present at home with her. And I think that is an experience. We've traveled a bunch already, and we've really just brought her into our already exciting life. And it's been really awesome. And she's growing into one of the funnest, kindest, sweetest, like little girls I've ever met. So, but the joy, it's a joy that I've never had before. So it's one of these things that it's like, I feel incredibly fulfilled as a dad. I think everything I've done so far has led me here, but it is the most fulfilling part of my life so far.
I'm so glad to hear that. And happiness looks great on you. I've said that before,
Thank
but
you.
but to say it to you, I really want you to receive that.
I do, and I love hearing it from people. In probably 2018, I kind of set the process to really change my whole, like really, really flip everything, starting with my health, and then really like starting to peel the onion of all the things that just didn't feel right in life. And it really led me to like have exactly what I want in my life, right? Now, things are not perfect, never are, right? But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Do you believe that you manifested this life?
I do. I mean, the concept of manifestation, the way it's like used in media, and like I find it to be a little bit hokey, right? But I believe in visualizing what you want to achieve, and that it keeps you focused enough. And I do believe that the universe provides. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, but I am a very faith-filled person. I believe very strongly in trusting the world and that the world provides for you. And so I think I manifested it. I mean, I look at in 2020, I wrote down literally exactly what I wanted in my life, and to the point of what type of partner, right? The timelines that I wanted things. And when I look at it now, it's almost exactly as I wished it.
Isn't it crazy how the universe works when
Yes.
you know what your intentions are and you're
Yep.
willing to do the work to do it? I think a lot of
I think
times,
that's the key point right there, is willing to do the work. And I have put in so much work, but it's amazing. For a man, being a striving for something, having a point that they want to achieve, that's one of the most guiding forces that you can have.
yeah, and it's beautiful to watch. And so I want you to continue to share everything with everyone because I learned things from following you and Jackie. And I just feel so blessed to be able to witness your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. And you guys as well. So I feel like you guys are one of the couples that we both look at as, I feel like we learn a lot from you guys. And I think there's just a great camaraderie amongst some Compass families. And you guys are one of them. That it's really beautiful. Some of the chats I've had with your husband about life and when your son was coming and all of these things, it's just, it's very interesting. He's been such a strong cheerleader for me, and just, giving me a lot of strength in acknowledging, sort of seeing the growth and the changes. And it's always very powerful when I get it from him.
Oh, I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
This podcast is a lot about building wealth and mindset and healing so that you can become the person to have all the things, right? I believe in Jim Rohn's saying of be, do, have. So my
Right.
question to you is, we see this person today, but what did you have to unlearn in order to become this person? What is like the number one thing?
I feel like the number one thing, I mean, I have a laundry list, but ultimately, I think the most important thing that I've learned is about self-validation and really treating yourself with care and kindness, and like also the acknowledgement that like the way your brain speaks to you and the voice in your head speaks to you is not necessarily a positive guidance for you. So understanding that has been one of probably my biggest things, is like unlearning all the programming that we get, and also just believing other people's crap. Like there's so much people, with all the joy that comes, you get your haters, right?
Mhm.
I feel like that's something I learned in the music business, was that I always learned that when people are hating on you, that's when you're doing things right, because the jealousy kicks in. But it's hard to, when you're such a positive person, like take when someone is not being kind or positive, right?
It's funny that you say about haters. It was hard for me to see that before as something that could be positive. And now I
Mhm.
look at it as aspects of them that need to heal. Right. And I wish them well. And that's another reason why I want to have a podcast like that, is so that people, if you don't recognize it in yourself, those parts that you need to heal, maybe you can recognize it in somebody else and go, oh, okay, let me look within, do some reflection and heal those parts of myself.
Yeah, and I guess also in the business that we're in, like ultimately, there's a lot of people that show up with kindness and then they turn into the other way. And reconciling that has been complicated for me. I'm an empath. I want
Hmm.
people to be in a good spirit. I give my heart to people, so therefore I want it back. And when it doesn't happen, it hurts. But separating yourself from that is an important piece. Your inner joy and happiness, to me, is your responsibility to bring that to the world. We just came back from Day with Destiny
Yeah.
in December, and the thing that came up for me was just that I'm here to bring joy to people, like spread my light, right? And all the other crap that comes into play that like dims it is just not something to hold on to anymore.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
got to let it go. That other people's crap, like
it's true. It's
you
true.
know. And like if they're asking me for help or they want coaching, like I'm willing to mentor or sit with anybody if they want help, right? But if they're just dumping on you and they're being, let them do what they need to do and move on.
That brings up a really great point. One, being an empath, and two, how do you set boundaries so that they're not walls, instead they're fences between you and other people's crap, right? Like illegal dumping is a thing in physical real estate, but it's also a thing
Sure.
in mental real estate. So how do you
100.
protect yourself from that?
I think it's not something that I've been great at. I think in the beginning of selling real estate and throughout my career, I've established some of the relationships that were early relationships that developed and stayed with me throughout the long term. Those people, it's much harder to set the boundaries with, because they knew you when you weren't really that successful. You guys came up together, and then ultimately they feel they're not looking at the level you're at, they're looking at the level that they met you at, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're treating me poorly because you're just not giving me my flowers, you're not really respecting where I am now. That's complicated for me, right? Because when those relationships get funny, it's really, really painful, right? Newer clients and people I meet now, I'm pretty aware as to what's going on. When someone's being shady, I'm assessing whether that's a relationship that I want to have. I've gotten to a level now that I don't have to work with everybody that I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. And so when it comes up, it's usually for something that's a big ticket item, and I understand that the payout is something that can create a nicer lifestyle for my family. So I focus on that. If I'm going to take this shit, there's a reason for it. I'm going to take shit in order to get a paycheck, right? And the best part about what we do is there's a lot of people who are employees who just take crap all the time for a paycheck, but they're stuck there, right? We do one transaction with someone who's a little shady, we get our paycheck, and then we don't have to deal with that person anymore, which is a nice thing. So
Mm.
just acknowledging when it's happening and trying to not let it affect me negatively is probably where I focus when it comes to that and setting the boundaries. If somebody does something shady, I'm not accepting that, right? People hold on to things like that. It's better if you just say it, right? So I try and say it. And if it doesn't go well, then it's okay. We move on. We're good.
And they knew you to be
Yeah.
this person. Let's say, for instance, somebody is aspiring to be the highest and best expression of themselves and they're having trouble creating boundaries. Maybe this is the first boundary that they set because they're people pleasers or they're empaths to the point where they're like, I can feel their pain. I will just bend for them. What advice would you give them?
I mean, it definitely depends on where they are and what they're trying to achieve, right? Ultimately, as to my last point, I think ultimately, if you have certain goals and those goals are there to drive you in a particular direction, at least you understand why you're doing it, and then you could feel okay about it, right? It's a decision to make. But what I can say to most people is, if it feels funny and you're not, our business, you have to be inspired to achieve. When you're not focused, dedicated there, and you're not there for the client, you're not actually going to achieve the best output for them, right? So I just think if it feels funny to you, then you got to like acknowledge. First thing is be self-aware. Is it you? Self-awareness is key in every part of our lives, right? If you say, okay, is the reason I'm feeling this way because of something that I'm doing incorrect for myself, right? Am I feeling this? Am I being too sensitive? Is this something that is hurting me, right? You're going to have a filter, right? If someone says something negative, I'm going to respond to it and be like, wait, that feels funny. Is it me? First. So self-awareness is first. And when you acknowledge that it's not and that somebody else is being unfair, it's a respect for yourself to just be respectful about your communication. Oftentimes people don't know what they're doing. They don't know it, right? Like there's so many different types of people in this world that like sometimes people just dump on you and they don't even realize they're doing it. And they're not even meaning to do it in a negative way. They just have a bad communication style that doesn't match with yours. So respectfully say to them, you have to say it. You got to set a boundary. You're not going to be more successful if you don't you don't learn to set boundaries on yourself and on other people. Because people will take advantage all the time.
And to pivot into getting into like wealth, right? And defining wealth and how you define it and how has that definition changed for you over time?
I think wealth is obviously you have your financial side of it, but I think wealth is more about your vitality and how you live your life and the joy that you bring. I mean, I've had years that I've been really, really successful and just have had no joy. And I wouldn't consider myself wealthy at that point, right? But I think it means something different to everybody, for sure. I also believe in the more money, more problems, right?
Right.
I mean, I've experienced it too many times. It's like you have the best year of your life and then some bomb drops on you and you're just like, oh, what the hell, right? But I think with planning, you can get, financially wealthy. I don't come from wealth. I consider myself to be wealthy because of the family and the life that I have. I feel like there's so many people who are financially wealthy that are not like in a good place, and that's not wealth to me.
I agree. I totally agree. And I would say you seem very wealthy with the wealth of relationships that you have, the wealth of love that you have, the wealth of knowledge that you have. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And then also, let's talk about like how you grew up. Like, how
Sure.
did that define wealth for you? Like, what did your parents teach you about building wealth?
I think it's one of the places that I wish I had more guidance, right? So my parents, but when I speak about being a wealthy person in regards to my psychology and my like household and my joy, like that is something that I grew up in one of the most loving households. My parents always in love with each other, like always. I was a musician growing up. Like I was a bad student, right? Like uh, I was a smart kid. Everyone knew that I was a smart kid, but I wasn't going to sit there in school on subjects that I didn't like. I just wasn't interested, right? But I was lucky enough for them to see that I wanted to be an artist and I wanted to be out there, and they supported me always. So the amount of support that I got was something that led me to the place now where I can kind of battle everything and do it in that format. Do I wish there was maybe a little bit more of a time where we learn more about money and budgeting and how to grow wealth and buy real estate and all that stuff? But you get what you get, right? And I think in the end of the day, having the joy and the life and the love that I've had, and we still have. My parents spend 2 days a week with Rio, and like we spend so much time with them, and they're just, we still have the same type of wealthy life that we had when we were younger.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that takes me to like, what are you teaching Rio that you didn't learn?
I think what we're planning to teach Rio is more, because, at 18 months, she's learning, but one of the things that Jackie and I, we're very, very conscious of when Rio first came, and a little bit beforehand, was we wanted her, we're social, we're both very outgoing people. And first things first was us. We did not want her to be an insulated child. We wanted her to be out and about and have fun around other people. So even she was 5 days old the first time we met up with friends, right? She comes to parties with us. She comes to work events with us. She's always having a good time. So that was something that we wanted to teach her about, being around people and being able to be in that environment. Then culturally, we like, she's been to, I think she's 18 months, she's been to 5 countries.
Wow.
Right? And, the first international, actually the second international trip, we were going to a wedding in Italy. One of Jackie's good friends is also a client of ours. And Jackie's mom was supposed to watch Rio here, and something happened and she couldn't do it. So we're like, what do we do? And we're like, let's just take her, right? And then we're like, is she going to remember? And we're like, maybe not the physical memories, but it's going to be the core of our family, is learning about culture and being in different environments. So we're going to teach them that,
Yeah, and it's important to have a wide range of things that you're teaching your children, not just money per se, but what money can do, what relationships can do. Like, because you have that client in Italy, you have the opportunity to go to a wedding and for her to experience that. It's funny, right before the pandemic, we had an opportunity to take Olivia to Europe, and everyone's like, are you crazy to take an 18-month-old to Europe? And like, it's going to be hectic and crazy and nap schedules. And we were like, oh, we're going to do it anyway. And then we did. And it was one of the best experiences we've ever had. It was for the memories than it was for Olivia, but we have the photos to show her. And it makes it, I know it laid down a foundation for her to want to travel and to see the world in the ways that we showed her. And I'm happy that we had the opportunity. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, the way I look back at this past year, which was a hard year in business and ultimately created a lot of turmoil for us at home, even though we had so much joy with Rio, was we actually took an opportunity for the first time 15 years in real estate to, like, literally, we disappeared. We left for the summer and we took her to Bali, right? And everyone was like, what do you mean you're going to Bali for the summer? And I was like, the market's funny. Somebody wanted to rent our apartment. I was like, let's just go. Let's just screw it and go, right? And those 2 months for our family was, I would say, probably the most poignant 2 months we've had yet, because it was us together. I feel like there's a different relationship when you're just you and your partner than when you're there with your family, and just getting to experience that was amazing.
How did you know to do that? How did you know to bet on yourself and go away when other people might have saw like, oh, this is not one of the best years in my business, or this isn't one of the best years of my life. I should just stay put. They say if they want to do the opposite. Why did you decide to go to Bali instead and go the whole other direction?
I think more the way I've sort of identified it afterwards was like, this year was more a survival year than it was a growth year, right? So I saw just us going down a path as a family and as a couple and as entrepreneurs of just so much negativity. And I was just like, how do we come back next year and be better? And part of that is actually just being like, you know what, I'm going to just go for it, even if it's not ideal, right? The working with Tony Robbins stuff and all of that has really created an understanding of that, when going into uncertainty is really where joy comes. So I've learned to take those risks without thought, and knowing that they're gonna provide for you. Now, financially, it wasn't the right decision, probably, but it will be because we're in a so much better place now than we would have been then.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just felt right. You know, I was like, I kind of just go. Sometimes you just gotta say fuck it and go.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a key takeaway where it really hits for someone. They're gonna hear that part, and you're definitely going to positively impact somebody's life. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and we also decided while we do it, we're not going to be on Instagram, right? So like, it's the reason you don't know much about it. I mean, we've posted a couple small things from the trip, but like we were very conscious. It's like I did not post on Instagram for the entire time we were there, right? Specifically because I was like, I wanted to understand what my life was like without this like need for constant validation. And I think my actions coming back are how much joy internal joy I was able to have with my family that wasn't connected to outside influence.
Mm,
Like, I don't think I'll ever go back to the way that I was before that on social media,
mm,
right? Because it's, you know, people don't need to know everything about your life.
that part. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
it's so interesting how people look outward for everything that they need that's inward, right? Like they look for external validation when they really need to have self-love and self-validation. So it's very
Mhm.
interesting
It's
that
hard to do though. It's hard
it's
to do when you're connected to that, right? So it's like such a curated experience for some people. And like, some people do it well, some people don't do it well. And it definitely is something where you're like, come on, let's be real. I'd rather go one-on-one with somebody and understand what they have to say, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it takes a lot of maturity and growth for someone to be able to be like, you know what, I need to find it within myself, right? Uh, and the first question you asked was about the self-development and the growth. Like,
Mhm.
that's why I stay so invested in it, because
Mhm.
the gravity is crazy. Like, it'll just pull you down quickly if you're not continually working on it, right? And I got when I met Jackie, it was like she's as growth minded as I am, right?
Mhm.
So like the two of us together being growth minded, it means we can conquer anything, right? And that's it. That's the foundation, right?
For sure. And I just feel like Rio did a great job by choosing you guys as parents. She was like,
To
wherever
be
she
honest,
came
we're the
from, she was
lucky
like,
ones. She's so fun. She's
yeah.
such a fun, I know that we had something to do with it by showing her love and having her always feel the joy that she gets. And that's made her more outgoing, but she's such a fun child. She loves to learn. She's starting to joke with us and starting to like say things for reaction. She's like, loves climbing on things. And she's like, but the joy, it's very, very hard to wake up in the morning, see her smile, and then go and have a shitty day.
Right.
Like someone has to do something really, really impactfully shitty to me for me to be like in my own brain about it. It's like I have all the joy around me, and I know it's probably a common thing for a lot of parents when they get to that point, right? I feel very lucky that I waited till I was a little older to have children.
Mhm.
I waited till I found the right partner, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and so I don't have the same needs as someone who's 30, young 30s to when they become a parent, right? They're trying to figure out how to do this and how to do that, all right? And for me, it's just joy. It's just fun. It's hard. It's tiring. There's a lot of stress for it. But it's so fulfilling. It's amazing.
I say it's one of the most rewarding jobs you'll ever have in life is to be their parent. And
And
I don't
important.
take it for granted.
And I think that's also one of the things that I do all the time is I don't take uh, people, especially in our business, and I love the powerhouses that we have around us, right? Our community is insane. It's incredible. And there's like one inspiring person after the other, right? You have people who are tops in their field. You have people who are tops in their markets. And in the end of the day, they're all great, great people. I don't take what we do so seriously. You know, it's not, it is important for people. And I'm not saying you don't take it professionally seriously, but like, you know, we're not changing the world.
Yeah. You don't let it define you. What you do define you.
And it's hard not to, because that's business. When you're in sales, it's like, I got to talk to everybody, but still the foundation is strong before that, right? For most of us, the reason we're successful at this career is because we have personalities and we've learned how to connect with people. And, I feel like the most important thing is the relationships that we build, how we connect with people truly feeling like you're on their side. That's what does it. And foundation of family is all part of that. It's the reason why I don't shy away from sharing about my life when it comes to people like that. I've always had young agents come and say, well, I want my business persona and my personal persona to be different, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but that's not reality. Well, and it's ultimately like, oh, I don't want people to know that I'm this way. And I'm like, then you're making your job so much harder, right? Like when I think about, I think I have a lot of visibility when it comes to like, my life out there a little bit. Like the amount of people that I meet, like at a Compass retreat, for example, that are like, oh, how's your daughter? And I'm like, oh, well, who are you? Right?
They know you from where? Yeah.
Well, and of course I understand that I know them from the Compass world. We meet a lot of people and sometimes everything doesn't always connect. But like when I think about that, when it comes to clients, the amount of people, my biggest sale of my career came from when I met them one time. I made a big enough impact. We just stayed in touch online. And then out of nowhere, they contacted me when they wanted to buy, and they just happened to have a crazy budget, right? And when they emailed me, I was like, I didn't remember who they were. It was probably 8 years between the first meeting and the time they actually transacted with me. And like, but we were connected online. They saw everything that was going on. So they knew what was going on. They knew to trust me. So I think there's something about that as well. Like just being yourself and like living the life that you want to live.
But balancing it out with not feeling like you need to depend on it, like being on social all the time. Yeah, that's a part that balance plays a huge role. Just going back to the questions about like wealth, and let's say, for instance, you're a first-time home buyer and you feel like, you know what, all the things that Steve's saying is great, but like, where do I get started? Is it too late for me? Like I've been out, I haven't been playing the money game like everyone else has. Is real estate right for me? What advice would you give someone who has feelings like that?
I mean, I think real estate is always the right move because, when you think about wealth in this country, largely wealthy person had some type of real estate piece that was there, right? And it's really the only asset class that, I don't know, not the only one, but it's the one that's most the physical asset, right? A physical asset is something that you can tangibly touch and you know that it's there. So I don't think there's ever missing the boat. This concept of missing the boat. I mean, buying right is important, right? A very, very hard market to just be in like an investor and to build wealth in because it's so expensive. And your return on investment you have to look at it very differently than other parts of the world because, you're not making, oftentimes someone's investing in something and they're barely making what spending every month in rent or return, right? And oftentimes less, right? But that doesn't mean it's a bad investment because ultimately everything in New York appreciates at substantial ways. But the most advice that I'd give somebody who's trying to get into investing in real estate and building wealth in real estate is take your time and get to know what's out there. Like understand there are very different models for investing in real estate. You have your buy and holds, you have your purchase and flips, right? I think getting your feet wet and understanding what's happening and working with a good agent who can guide you there is, of course, a variable there. But also, you kind of have to let a little bit of the questioning of everything go because sometimes you just got to make a move and try it, right?
Say if they're feeling like the fear is debilitating, like they can't do it, and it's just
it always is, especially with the price points that we're talking about, right? When you spend that much money, you're like, I need to make the best investment. I need to make the right move, right? I built most of my career on being on the listing side, the sales listing side, and really creating emotion for people because I think that's what's selling when you're representing a property is you want to connect with people's emotions. I feel like that passion ultimately is going to lead you to make the right type of emotional choice, which I think ultimately will be the best financial choice too.
Hmm. It's interesting because real estate is so emotional, right? Especially residential real estate. It's like if you feel like it, you'll do it and you'll have it make sense. And a lot of times people try to put logic into it. And yes, but it comes down to like feeling
It
the
depends
feeling.
on the people you're dealing with. We have different
Yeah,
types of customers. You have people that
right.
are numbers people and they're going to look at everything as a number, right? But in the end of the day, like I have investors that I've worked with for over a decade and like, you know, they don't do anything besides like buy, rent, and then eventually sell, right? They let it appreciate and sell, right? But in the end of the day, it doesn't matter the number that I put in front of them. If they don't love it, they're not buying it.
Right.
And you're like, that doesn't really make sense because if all you're really trying to get out of it is the appreciation, but it's they trust their emotion when it comes to it, right? I think it's an incredibly emotional thing. And especially if you're dealing with the best part of real estate is you get to see people grow, you get to see people couple up, you get to see people, get married, have children, become bigger, have bigger families, all these things, this growth element, so much emotion in that, right? And that is, to me, that's the most fun I've had is the people that I met when they were singles, renting an apartment. And then the next, and now we're probably on this. I have one family that I'm on, I think, the sixth transaction of, right? And like, I rented the guy the apartment. I rented his girlfriend an apartment when they first met, right? Not together. Then they moved in together. Then they bought. We sold. Have two kids now, and it's like this. That's the beauty of this whole thing, right? That's like the most fun part. You're building wealth the whole time, right? Ultimately, that's what it is, and it's not just financial wealth.
It's everything. You get to see everything. Yeah, I love that, and I love how you look at real estate in that way, because I also believe that we're in a relationship business and not in the buying and selling of real estate. So, totally
No.
in alignment there. My final question for you is, what has your wealthiest client taught you about real estate, whether it be mindset or what to buy in real estate? What have you learned?
Ah, wealthiest. Again, I obviously with the different.
However you want to define it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually want to say like I've learned their actions led me to learn so much for myself so it wasn't something they physically taught me, like that it was more of like their ability to separate business from personal was something that that's always been very, 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 very complicated for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
To put on their business hat and put on their personal hat, like those different things, and they really are separated.
Mm-hmm.
It taught me about myself and having to really be able to identify that, which I think is probably the most valuable lesson I've gotten from those people. I would say my physically wealthiest client, they just invested incredibly well and held, and now they're coming up on starting to consider selling assets. I think they're like, it's crazy. It's crazy. They're like, it's like they've grown like almost 20 times
Wow.
some of the assets they bought. And that's over 40 years, right?
Wow.
Like bought a property for under $2 million is probably worth in the $40 million range now.
Wow.
Yeah. And they just bought smart, got the opportunity, didn't wait. And they couldn't at the time really afford it. Right. But they saw the vision and they made it happen. Right.
You know,
Like,
what's funny is it sounds so full circle of you talking about investing in yourself. And I
uh-huh.
feel like it is already paying, tenfold for you. And I'm excited to see it continue to grow, just like your wealthiest client, physically and mentally, by investing in yourself when you feel like you can't even do it, but somehow you make a way. Like I see how you made that a full circle thing. I see the example that you're painting a picture.
I have too much. I don't know. It sounds really cliche and kind of stupid, even though I know it's true and I think you get it. I have the perfect life. No matter what's negative is happening, I literally have my perfect partner. I met my soulmate. I have this incredible company around us with incredible friends. I do very well for myself, even though there's plenty of drama and stress and maybe financial issues that come up and all this stuff that happens all the time. I don't know. I'm too blessed to be stressed. I guess that's really kind of how it comes down. It's true though. It sounds so almost ridiculous and cliche, but it's true for me. It's just like, you know, I don't know how else to feel because it's just, and I know it's a lot of the work that I did and, invest myself doing Tony Robbins stuff, Day with Destiny. I mean, I think you've done it, right?
Yeah.
It's just the power of like coming out of that and having clarity as to who you are and what you want to achieve in your life. You're soul focused. It's just, I don't know. I've always chased happiness more than I've chased money. And that's probably the identity of wealth for me. It's just joy and everything else is a result of that. My passion. I mean, it's the reason I'm so passionate. I would say probably the skill that most reflects on to my success in real estate is that my passion is like I show up and people want to be around me because I just have this aura and push around me, and that's amazing. But it comes from just being happy and not letting the crap that's around us bring me down.
It's a beautiful way to end it. And I just want to thank you for the time, space, energy, and the self-healing that you've done. And you're one of my faves too.
Hell yeah, you too. I wish we got to spend more time together.
I know. Thank you so much for
Thank
making
you.
the time.
You're welcome. I love you guys. And really, I'm excited to see you do more of this and get connected with more people. And I appreciate you for your approach to this community and the way that you're presenting this. I think it's really, really beautiful and needed. So thank you.